हरि ओम।
Hari Om, everyone.
हरि ओम।
Hari Om, everyone.
हरि ओम।
हरि ओम।
Hari Om, everyone.
हरि ओम।
Hari Om.
Okay, let's start. प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वं सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयं यत्स्वप्नजागरसुषुप्तिमवैति नित्यं तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्गः तपोभिक्षीणपापानां शान्तानां वीतरागिणाम् मुमुक्षूणामपेक्षोऽयम् आत्मबोधो विधीयते बोधोऽन्यसाधनेभ्यो हि साक्षान्मोक्षैकसाधनं पाकस्य वह्निवज्ञानं विना मोक्षो न सिद्ध्यति। We'll chant from verses 56 to 60. Verse number 56 to verse number 60 of chapter 2. दुःखेष्वनुद्विग्नमनाः सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः वीतरागभयक्रोधः स्थितधीर्मुनिरुच्यते। दुःखेष्वनुद्विग्नमनाः सुखेषु विगतस्पृहः वीतरागभयक्रोधः स्थितधीर्मुनिरुच्यते। यः सर्वत्रानभिस्नेहः तत्तत्प्राप्य शुभाशुभम् नाभिनन्दति न द्वेष्टि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता। यः सर्वत्रानभिस्नेहः तत्तत्प्राप्य शुभाशुभम् नाभिनन्दति न द्वेष्टि तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता। यदा संहरते चायं कूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता। यदा संहरते चायं कूर्मोऽङ्गानीव सर्वशः इन्द्रियाणीन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता। विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते। विषया विनिवर्तन्ते निराहारस्य देहिनः रसवर्जं रसोऽप्यस्य परं दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते। यततो ह्यपि कौन्तेय पुरुषस्य विपश्चितः Indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha yatato hyapi kaunteya purushasya vipashchitaha. Indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. Okay. So we are in a section dealing with Arjuna's questions to Lord Krishna about the description of a perfect person, about the description of a sthita prajna, one whose wisdom is established, one whose penny has dropped, one who has got the message of this knowledge, not merely intellectually understanding it, but one who is able to actually live it. That is a perfect human being. And what is the description? How is this person? What is his nature? How does he relate to the world, he or she? How does he engage with the world outside? How does he sit? How is he within himself? So, how does he sit? How does he walk? How does he move around? That was his question. How does he speak? This was Arjuna's question in verse number 54. The answer to which will carry on for the next couple of verses, and what we'll get what a clear idea we'll get in the answers, the gist of it is that it is not about what you are externally but how you are internally that makes you a perfect human being. Spiritual perfection is when you become mananjaya. Mananjaya means man ke upar jay, victory over the mind, and this victory is not any easy task. In fact, in the coming verses, we will see that the mind is a powerful, powerful thing. You have to give it its due. The mind is a powerful equipment. If you take it for granted, or if you think you can manage it, you're in for a surprise. You have to have humility. Mind is a force of nature. Just like water, just like fire, just like air, the mind itself is a force of nature. You have to approach it with humility. So one who has actually gained Mananjaya it's a great achievement. And this is the answer we got in verse number 55. Of course, each of these verses looked at singularly, it can be very confusing. But that's the answer we got in verse number 55. And then he gave some clarification in 56. He gave some elaboration in 56. And he'll elaborate further in the next couple of verses. But before we jump into it, are there any questions? Are there any queries?
Yeah, I have a question. If anyone can. So, until we are alive, the mind will be there. And in any situation, if we have yielded to the mind and we have not followed our intellect properly, and we have not followed whatever we are learning. So after that, the reaction we have done, or we have not behaved in the right way, and you get aware of it also, then what would be the next action from our side?
Next time don't do it, or next time act differently.
That's
Life is very forgiving. Let's not be hypothetical. Even let's look at yesterday. There may be 10 things you may have done which you shouldn't have done. From things you did, to things you said, to maybe even things that are not visible to others, emotions you felt, right? So very often you become aware of your actions, or you become aware of your impulses later. We yield to impulses in the moment, or we yield to certain feelings in the moment, but we become aware of, okay, I shouldn't have thought that, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't. And it's a part and parcel of life, right? If you have a perfect attunement of mind and intellect, you're a perfect human being, right? So it's very important to understand that your evolution, first of all, nature is very patient and nature is very forgiving. Even if it punishes you today, it will give you another chance tomorrow, right? There's one big one very important fundamental difference when we study, if you want to study sort of comparative religion, in when we talk about this idea in the Indic tradition, is that there's no eternal damnation. It's not that you're going to rot in hell forever. But yeah, you're certainly going to be in hell for some time. If you do something which you shouldn't have done, if you say something you shouldn't have said, if you act in a way you shouldn't have acted, no doubt you'll be agitated for a certain period of time and you will be in hell. You will have to face certain consequences, either of your own conscience or of the world outside you. But you get another chance. You will. So the idea is that
आपको चाहिए नहीं थी
we use this
नीचे पीरियड है ना
use this opportunity to be aware. See, either you are aware before the action, that's maturity, that's greatness, that's perfection. To be aware all the time before your action. The idea is to increase the proportion. How do we act with awareness? But even if you become aware after the action, use it as an opportunity to reflect and see. So, when we were in the course, Swamiji used to recommend two very important things that you must do is your morning study and your evening introspection. And what do I mean by introspection? It's not what necessarily the literal meaning of the word. A very specific practice which he would recommend is that before going to bed, take a couple of minutes to just run the day through your head. Just for the sake of observation, nothing else. Just for the sake of observation. You can't change what you did. There's no point repenting it. But you should ensure that it at least comes into your awareness. Right? So having reconciled with whatever has happened through the day, when you're going to bed, before going to bed, 4 or 5 minutes, just run the day through your head. And perhaps in as detailed a manner as you can, that it takes 4 to 5 minutes. Not more, not less. It shouldn't be rushed, but it shouldn't also be so particular, right? Run the events of the day through your head. And what that observation does is that it brings to your awareness the way in which you have reacted, way in which you have conducted yourself, thoughts you have thought, things you have done. And a consistent practice of that ensures that the next time you are in a similar situation with a person, with a particular emotion, with a particular situation, that your intellect will be available to you before the action. Right? That's the endeavor. The endeavor is not to suffer and feel guilty throughout. That's not the idea. God doesn't want to make you feel bad. But the idea is to, the next time life gives you such an opportunity, such a situation, let your faculties be available before the action. So that's the idea. If the mind is too strong, if the mind is very powerful, it's like a flood and you're trying to build a dam. Now, a dam is not built in a single day, right? And now just because the dam is built doesn't mean all is well. Sometimes you have to let the floodgates also open. I'm just extending the analogy, So it's not as simple. Dil to aakhir dil hai na, meethi si mushkil hai na, right? So it's not that simple, but it's a beautiful journey. I hope that answers your question. Any other?
तो लाइफ की जर्नी ही ऐसी है, राइट फ्रॉम द चाइल्डहुड हम गिरते हैं फिर उठ जाते हैं, गिरते हैं फिर उठ जाते हैं, तो यही तो लर्निंग है। ये तो कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है कि गलतियां तो हम करेंगे ही, सीख के भी गलती करेंगे, लेकिन अगर सीख के गलती करके सीख जाएं फिर फिर गलती ना करें, वही हमारी अच्छी चीज है, वही बहादुरी है। बहुत अच्छा बोले आप।
Indeed. Okay, any other questions? Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. The Lord's answer to Krishna's question, to Arjuna's question. The Lord's answer to Arjuna's question of how does a perfect person, how does a sthita prajna walk, sit, speak, what is this description of such a person? So the first answer was a description, and a beautiful description. It takes a little bit of digging into it. When you read it first time, you'll think, okay, what is he's talking about? Sab kuch chhod chhad ke chale jao. That's not what he's saying. Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. When one completely casts off all desires of the mind. Kaman sarvan. Sarva means all, complete. This is a utopia. And this is the highest state. Before we draw conclusions about this, it's very important, first of all, to understand what is a desire, because this is going to be the subject for the next couple of classes. For the next couple of classes, the centerpiece is going to be this idea of desire, right? And those who have sort of had a very cursory or superficial exposure, perhaps we all think, okay, desires are bad, desires are wrong. Maybe we bring in some morality to it, right? In Vedanta, we want to not jump to conclusions. We want to understand things from first principles. So what is a desire? That's the first thing to understand. Every human being, from the best of beings to the worst of beings, has desires. It's impossible to function and live. You won't be here if you don't have desires. Right? So first of all, it's important to understand what is a desire. A desire is nothing but a flow of thought from you to the object of desire. A desire is nothing but a flow of thought. It's like a stream of thought from you to the object of your desire with the hope of acquiring it and enjoying it. You desire because you want to acquire and get some imagined happiness from that object or being. Whatever you have thought, you may get from it. So a desire is a flow of thought from you, your mind, to the object of desire with the hope of acquiring it and enjoying it. And what is this enjoyment for? What is this acquisition for? It all stems from a void within. You have a desire because there is an emptiness within. Otherwise, there will be no desire. When you don't have a void, when the stomach is full, there is no thought of food. So the very purpose for the thought, the very cause for the thought, the very cause for this stream, this trickle, is because of a void within. The lesser the void, the lesser the flow. The more intense the void, the more intense and urgent the flow. So the intensity of desire is directly proportional to the level of the void you feel within. The more fulfilled you are, what happens when something you want gets fulfilled? When something you really wanted for many, many days and months, what happens? You become speechless. You pause. Life stops. Why? Because in that moment, you're full. In that moment, you're full. So you don't know what to think. You don't know what to ask for. You're done for that moment. It's a hot day. It's a hot day. And you have an ice cold Coca-Cola in front of you. For that 1 second after you drink it, 1 second. But then in that 1 second, there's nothing else you want. Why? Because you're full. Now, different objects give you pleasure for different amounts of time. A, a gross thing like a Coca-Cola will give you a satisfaction for 1 second, 2 seconds, maybe couple of minutes. Material objects will give you a fleeting pleasure. Emotions will give you a slightly longer pleasure. Intellectual pleasures will last for years and years and years. The joy of studying the Upanishads, years and years and years, it lasts. Spiritual joy is endless. So different kinds of desires will give you satisfaction for different periods of time. But in that moment when you satisfy desire, why do you pause? Because you become full for that moment. So the idea is you feel a void, and because of the void you start a flow of thought. Now that flow of thought grows. It grows from a single trickle into a stream, into a torrential river. What is a torrential river? A torrential river is just an uncontrolled flow of thought. Anger, tension, stress is nothing but uncontrolled thought. When the thought flow has reached a point where अब संभाला नहीं जा रहा, we loosely call that word emotion. But all your emotions are nothing but modifications of desire. When desire is fulfilled, there's a momentary satisfaction. When desire is not fulfilled, there's a momentary dissatisfaction. When desire is obstructed, there's anger. When desire seems unlikely to be fulfilled, there's fear. Or when what you have fulfilled is in threat of being lost, there's fear. When you're getting angry, the most important thing, first drink a glass of water, cool yourself down. And when you have the time and space to think about it, think about what made you angry. Because there's a desire underlying which got obstructed. Generally, we are angry at what obstructed our desire. We get angry at what obstructed our desire, but we don't actually understand what is the desire that caused us to get angry. Why am I angry at that person? Why am I angry at that thing? So all these modifications come from desire. To the extent to which you have regulated, moderated, directed your desire. And that's the role of your buddhi. The role of your buddhi is to improve the quality of the desire, improve the... Are you stuck at the level of material, or have you risen to emotions? Have you qualified above for certain intellectual desires? Have you elevated yourself to spiritual desires? Gross material or sensual desires is animalistic. Bare minimum is to have emotions. But even if you have merely emotional desires, it's suffocating. The glory of a human being is to cultivate spiritual desires, or at least intellectual desires. Do you have any scientific endeavors, or do you want to build something? Do you want to create something? That's the dignity of a human being. So improving the quality of your desires, and as you pick up a higher desire, Prajahati yada kaman sarvan partha manogatan. When you pick up a higher desire, the lower desires all automatically fall away. So when you pick up the highest desire is for spiritual enlightenment. The highest desire is to, it's not just something I'm randomly saying. The highest desire is to unfold the mystery that is this life, to discover what on earth am I doing. to unravel the spiritual mystery and to get onto this journey, the spiritual path. That's the highest desire. May I gain enlightenment. When that becomes the sole desire, all other desires are automatically cast off. So when he says, when one completely casts off, it doesn't mean letting go of everything else. It means picking up the highest. It means taking up the highest journey and culminating the highest journey. When one culminates the highest journey, when one attains enlightenment, then all desires, even the desire for enlightenment, falls away. In fact, that's the secret sauce. Ultimately, you have to get over the desire for enlightenment itself. It's like, remember the pole vault example. Ultimately, you have to let go of the pole itself to cross over, to jump over from the barrier. So that casting off doesn't mean becoming irresponsible and leaving everything away in life. When one completely casts off all the desires of the mind, it's a scientific process by which you improve the quality of your desires and slowly reduce the quantity of your desires. You grow your desires from material to sensual to emotional to intellectual to spiritual. You grow your desires from being selfish and gross to unselfish to selfless. It's a complete inner transformation. It's a complete inner transformation where you audit every thought. You're conscious of every thought you are thinking. You're conscious of every emotion you're feeling. And whatever is not aligned to your spiritual goal, let it pass. Keep aside. It's not used. आपके काम ना आए, आपके काम नहीं आएंगे. That's what he means. So that state of an evolved person, that is the state of a person who is of steady wisdom. That was the connotation. However, if you read it just in first glance, it gives you the impression of someone सब कुछ जो छोड़ छाड़ के चला गया हो and अपने में ही खुश है. The first time you read this verse, this is what you will perhaps interpret. A person who leaves everything behind and is happy by himself, indifferent to the world. That's the interpretation one may get by superficially reading this verse. That is not the implication out here. When one reaches the highest state of spiritual evolution, when one picks up the highest desire for the unfolding the mystery, that's when one is completely cast away all other lower desires. It's a highest state of being. And he clarifies through these subsequent verses. So in verse number 56, he says, for such a person, because of this work they have done, their mind is not agitated by sorrow nor excited by joy. They are equanimous. This work they have put in this yoga, the work they have put in on the spiritual journey, makes them equanimous, makes them objective, makes them calm and collected. They are not moved by the oscillations of the world. The world will keep oscillating. The world will never stop oscillating. Especially if Donald Trump becomes president. The world will oscillate even more. Are you able to hold yourself about it? So, he was mind agitated by...
What is then enthusiasm?
Sorry?
What is enthusiasm?
What is enthusiasm?
If, like you said, there's like this, in sorrow and in joy, you are balanced. But enthusiasm doesn't fit there then.
Why do you say that?
In enthusiasm, I think you get a little more excited and, I want you to explain it to me.
I want you to explain it to me, that where is this question coming from? Because when you dig the question, the answer is right there only. That's why. See, for us, enthusiasm means there should be some guarantee of success. What you are calling enthusiasm is almost linked with the outcome. And when the outcome is not favorable, what happens to the enthusiasm? There's dejection. It falls flat, right? So here he is not asking you not to be enthusiastic. Here he's giving you a way in which you sustain your enthusiasm. So it's very important to understand what is the fountainhead of your enthusiasm. Where does your enthusiasm arise from? Does it arise from an attachment to the outcome, or does it arise from a free-spirited sense of discovery and mystery? Right? If you're indifferent, you won't have enthusiasm. If you're disinterested, right? If you're attached to the outcome, or if you're attached to a particular strong desire, then your enthusiasm will be very frail. You'll go through bouts of enthusiasm and dejection. But how to maintain a spirit of discovery, how to have a light-hearted sense of a journey, right, is only when you are willing to be part of the journey but detached from the outcome. So I would urge you to think a little bit more about where does that enthusiasm spring from, right? Because generally what gets us excited is almost a promise of the outcome, an attachment to the outcome. So we have to refine our enthusiasm, right? We have to bring in a tinge of surrender, a sense of being free-spirited, and that's when we'll actually experience a deeper enthusiasm, right? So I don't want to let the entire cat out of the bag. That's what I want you to understand. I want you to ask yourself, where do you think enthusiasm springs from? What is the...
Yeah, like there's an example, like there are many, we plan trips, okay, and I get very excited and very enthusiastically, I plan the whole thing, and most of the time it doesn't happen. It ends up not happening, but it's not been affecting me as such, but I enjoyed that journey of planning.
Yeah.
So that's enthusiasm, right?
So how is this impeding that enthusiasm? See, when we say he's not saying he whose mind doesn't feel sorrow nor joy, right? When we are trying to when we're trying to convey a subtle thought, it's important that we see words for what they are used for and not literally, right? So we have to look a little bit beyond the words. We have to try to understand what is trying to be conveyed, right? He's saying his mind is not agitated by sorrow. He's not saying doesn't feel sorrow. He is saying his mind is not excited by joy. That doesn't mean he doesn't feel joy. So don't get carried away by the word not excited. Doesn't mean that the person doesn't feel joy. The connotation of the word excited means gets carried away. बह जाता है. Gets complacent. Loses a sense of
actually means a strong desire. That's all. Strong desire.
To have a moha.
Strong desire.
जाता है. He builds castles in the air. Because when you develop excitement by joy, then comes in complacency, then comes in arrogance. आपको अपने उस दिन हम क्या भजन प्ले कर रहे थे, मत कर माया को अहंकार, मत कर काया से घमंड, राइट? बट आप जब एक्साइटेड हो जाते हो जॉय से, देन आपको घमंड आ जाता है, आपको माया आ जाती है, आपको, राइट? So to see things as they are, you become sakshi, you become an observer. So this has, if you understand it in this way, this shouldn't dampen your enthusiasm in any way, right? In fact, it'll only increase your enthusiasm, because it'll be like a playground, right? Managing both the ups and the downs, right? It'll be a journey. So it'll be a deeper enthusiasm, right? Of course, if you look at this verse as one who is indifferent, then you can say, yeah, there'll be no enthusiasm. Because in indifference, there is no enthusiasm. But he's not asking you to be indifferent. So, who is free from desire, fear, and anger? I said in the previous verse, all these emotions, fear, anger, are all modifications of desires. When you pick up the highest desire, all lower desires and their associated emotions fall away. So, you become free from the bulk of desires and their associated fear and anger. You don't have a desire for something, you won't have any anger towards it.
So you will pick up a higher desire only when your basic desires are fulfilled.
Okay.
Otherwise, you won't pick up a higher desire. It will not come to you only.
Sure.
Now, basic is too relative.
That's my point. What is your basic desire? 1 crore, 10 crore, 100 crores. Let's account for inflation also. But what is basic?
So I'll just tell the class, somebody asked Utsav only this at a very young age. So he said, मेरे ऊपर छत है और मेरे प्लेट में खाना है. So you told this to your mom. So this is something which I was just thinking about it. I never thought like this in my life ever. मेरे ऊपर छत है और मेरे प्लेट पे खाना है. Because we are taking all that for granted.
I must have been a socialist at that point. That's why I said that.
You were young.
Maybe I was a socialist at that point. No, but the point is that I totally agree with you. Until your mind is at a certain relative peace, and it differs for different people, you won't have the time, space to even think about it. But with knowledge, your idea of basic also changes. You'll be amazed to know how little you can do with. I'll recall a simple experience, a beautiful experience I had many, many years ago, when after a long day of hiking, I think we hiked some 17-18 kilometers, very strenuous. I think I was the most tired and difficult physical day, and I still can't convey to you. When you go camping, you take a small stove, you take the small gas burners, and of course nowadays there are many other amenities. There's some ready to cook food. That time there wasn't. I think it was ready to cook only. So we just took some rice and took some yellow dal, and we got it ready in like 10-15 minutes. It's after a long day of hiking. People want to go to sleep, they don't want to eat, but we know it's very important to eat. I can't tell you, that dal chawal was the best thing I've tasted. Michelin 3. What is the highest Michelin? 4. 3. This is Michelin 4. Best. Amazing. So the idea being that, yeah, you may enjoy all the things in the world, but what do you truly need? That's for you to decide. Because when that is satisfied, then you'll have space and time to even think and consider on these subtler thoughts. Otherwise, you'll always be caught up in chasing things you think you desperately need and don't have time for anything else. Right? So please meet your basic desires, and I would assume that if you're sitting peacefully at 7:45 in the morning and listening to this class, your basic desires are met. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the luxury of sitting here. You'll all be rushing for some work, or doing something, or maybe had a night shift and just coming back to sleep. Uh, so the fact that you're here means more than your basic desires are met.
यस्टर का सॉन्ग है सैगल का, चाह बर्बाद करेगी मुझे, मुझे मालूम ना था. तो डिजायर which has actually destroyed his life totally.
हाँ.
सो जी, मैं इस श्लोक के बारे में खाली ये बोलना चाहता हूँ कि हम एक पानी की एग्जांपल ले सकते हैं, दरिया की. दरिया को पानी जो है बड़ा उत्सुक है, समुद्र से निकला हुआ है और समुद्र की तरफ भाग रहा है इन द फॉर्म ऑफ ए रिवर. व्हेन द ऑब्स्ट्रक्शन कम्स, पत्थर आते हैं, पहाड़ आते हैं, तो जोर जोर से शोर करता है. द क्रोध, वो क्रोध के रूप में आ जाता है. और जब वो समुद्र में जाके मिलता है तो शांत जाके मिल जाता है. तो ये हमारी एग्जाम्पल थोड़ी बहुत ही, मेरा तो ख्याल में ऐसे मिलती जुलती है कि पानी की, जैसे अगर पानी को हम कंट्रोल करें, घर में पानी जो है टैप में आता है, बिल्कुल शांत पानी आता है, कोई शोर नहीं करता, तो इट इज ऑल कंट्रोल्ड वाटर. बट व्हेन इट इज रनिंग इन द रिवर, देन द डिजायर्स, ट्रमेंडस डिजायर्स आर देयर. रास्ते में पोखर भरता है, नदियां भरता है और कल 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 कर करता हुआ जाता है. तो ये कुछ इससे मिलता जुलता है, मैंने ऐसे ही बोला है, पता नहीं.
Yeah, absolutely. And एक famous saying भी है, be like water.
या
Another beautiful,
water.
another
Yeah.
beautiful quality of water is that it adapts to any environment. It takes the shape of the environment, right? आप किसी भी vessel में डालो. The idea is the adaptability, the capacity to be able to adapt to any environment. So yes, very, very much good analogy. So he who is free from desire, fear, and anger, such a person, such a sage, such a person is called a sage of steady wisdom. Sthitadir Muni Ruchyate. Uchyate means is called. Look at the beauty of this statement. Such a person is called. Lord Krishna is not saying I call such a person. He's simply conveying that this is what is regarded. Beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. Those who are evolved say this is true evolution. So this is not, even if you think of it in that perspective, this is not just the opinion of one man, Krishna. Even if you reduce Lord Krishna to just an individual, even if you reduce the glory of the Lord to just an individual, this is not just the knowledge given by one individual. It is said, he says, elsewhere he is regarded, such has been said by the sages, such has been said by the sages. Means there is a continuity to this knowledge. It is not the opinion of one person at one time. It is a time tested by a variety of people over different periods of time, and a collective of all of that wisdom is this knowledge. So such a person is said to be a sage of steady wisdom. And he continues in verse number 57. Yas sarvatranabhisnehaha tat tat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratisthita. Yas sarvatranabhisnehaha tat tat prapya shubhashubham nabhinandati nadveshti tasya prajna pratisthita. He who is everywhere without attachment, who having met good or evil neither rejoices nor hates, his wisdom is established. So another beautiful verse to further describe the person of wisdom, and more an external description. So how does he walk? How does he contact the external world? Well, he walks around. He doesn't go away into the isolation. He doesn't run away from the world. Such a person is everywhere. Such a person is in the din and roar of the marketplace, in Dalal Street, in Chandni Chowk, in DLF, Emporio. Everywhere. Without attachment. That's the important phrase. Yes, sarvatrana अनभिस्नेह, स्नेह नहीं है, अटैचमेंट नहीं है. If you are detached, you can possess anything. There's no problem with possession. In this tradition, we celebrate wealth, we celebrate possession. The more the merrier. Do you have the capacity to handle it, is the question. The problem with the human mind is that whatever it meets, whatever it greets, it gets attached to. It develops a sense of mindness, it develops a sense of possessiveness, it develops a strong attachment that it cannot do without. And it gets completely in delusion because of that attachment. So the problem is not desire, the problem is not possession, the problem is the possessiveness, the problem is uncontrolled desire. When you lose yourself because of your possession. But if you are detached, you can possess anything. In fact, the only way to sustain your possession is to be detached. If you're attached to something, you will lose it, or it will lose you. Detach, you gain. Attach, you lose. He who is everywhere without attachment, that's the secret sauce. So, reading verse 55 and 56, we may think, oh, such a person is indifferent, or such a person is isolated, or such a person is away from the world. No. In 57, he clarifies, he who is everywhere. There's no place he is not. He is in the temple, he is in the nightclub. Yogaratova, bhogaratova, sangaratova, sangavihina, everywhere. The great Adi Shankaracharya says, Yogaratova, bhogaratova, sangaratova, sangavihina. It doesn't matter where you are. Why? Because tomorrow when you see me in the nightclub, you won't exclaim and say, Arey, what's up? Why are you here? You're not supposed to be here. No, he who is everywhere without attachment. If you are detached, there's no restriction on your possession, there's no restriction on what you can meet and what you cannot meet, what you can possess or what you cannot possess. It's very difficult for people to understand and swallow this. Yogaratova, bhogaratova, sangaratova, sangavihina. Yasya brahmani ramate chittam. Nandati, nandati, nandativa. You might be wondering, what does detachment mean? Exactly what we've been saying. Attached to the higher, you detach from the lower. Attached to the higher, you detach from the lower. Yasya brahmani ramate chittam. आपके चित्त में, आपके मन में आप क्या रम रहे हो, आप क्या सोच रहे हो? Are you thinking about gross things? Are you thinking about sensual things? Are you thinking about material possessions? Are you thinking about way to acquire and enjoy and grab and hold on to whatever you possess? Is that the thought? Or are you thinking about Brahman? Yasya Brahmani ramate chittam. Are you thinking about the higher? Are you completely absorbed in the mystery of life? Is your mind completely absorbed in spiritual thoughts?
सो जी कहीं इसका मीनिंग ये तो नहीं है कि मेरे ख्याल में ये 57 श्लोक जो है, जब हम पोजेस करते हैं कुछ तो हम सोचते हैं कि मैंने किया है, जब उसमें अहंकार आ जाता है एंड वी स्टार्ट फिर अहंकार का रूप धारण कर लेता है. धारण करने के बाद फिर उससे अटैचमेंट हो जाती है, अरे ये तो मैंने ही किया है. तो भगवान ने शायद इसमें इसीलिए कहा होगा कि यू शुड कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्य, तुम भूल जाओ ये तुम्हारा नहीं किया हुआ, ये किसी और ने दिया हुआ तुम्हारे. शायद इसमें ऐसा विचार होगा.
Sure. So attachment, of course, कर्तृत्व भाव से detachment, भोक्तृत्व भाव से detachment, it is detachment at all levels, right? It is a sense of separation from your ego. So possessiveness and ego are one and the same. They are two sides of the same coin. A sense of mindness arises from ego. जितना आपका अहंकार है, जितना आप में मैं भाव है, उस हद तक आप में ये possessiveness रहेगी कि ये मेरा है या फिर ये मैंने किया है. So both ways, right? So you'll be detached from the lower only when you are attached to the higher. Now, if I were you, I would ask the question: if he's attached to the higher, why would he even go into places and why will I go to a nightclub if I don't have attachment to it? That's also true. That's also true. Your desires will lead you to a variety of environments, right? So naturally, the kind of desires you have, what you are attached to, will determine predominantly how your life is, what kind of environments you have. But what he's trying to say out here is that there's no restriction, there's no morality out here कि ये कर सकते हैं, ये नहीं कर सकते, ये ऐसे होना चाहिए, ये वैसे नहीं होना चाहिए, right? आप इसका you can't measure it in this way, right? So as nature demands, you land in different environments. So you are everywhere. You're in the din and rout of the marketplace. This knowledge will not be relevant if this is not meant for one and all, right? So this knowledge teaches you how to live in the world. And detachment is the secret sauce. So detachment from the lower comes by attachment to the higher. And because of this attachment to the higher, they are everywhere in a spirit of detachment. And because of that, having met good or evil, neither rejoice nor hate. They have that sense of objectivity. Everyone is an expression of their vastness. Everyone is a helpless expression of their vastness. Everyone is simply manifesting their nature. Nobody is 100% good, nobody is 100% evil. And everyone is in a flux of change. Evil will find its own evil, goodness will find its own goodness. So having met good or evil, there is that sense of objectivity. They neither rejoice nor hate. There's a sense of empathy, there's a sense of objectivity. So this is describing how he looks at the world. We are trying to get behind his mind. We're trying to understand what makes him look at the world in such a way. There's good and evil. There's bound to be good and evil in this world. This world is dvandva. This world is an admixture of sattva, rajas and tamas. If you're predominantly sattvic, you'll automatically be good. If you're predominantly tamasic, you'll automatically be bad. It's just the play of the gunas. Understand, everybody is helplessly just expressing their gunas. That objectivity will help you to not get carried away by any emotion, to not draw a judgment on any person. Why? Because everybody can also transform themselves. Everybody is subject to growth. Everybody is subject to change. If it wasn't possible, if a tamasic person couldn't become sattvic, then this knowledge wouldn't be needed. Then it's pre-decided who's sattvic, who's tamasic, and they'll remain that way. But the truth is that people can devolve if they don't work on themselves, if they get carried away, and people can evolve if they work on themselves. A tamasic person can grow, can change. Of course, you have to be objective. A tamasic person can't change overnight. A tamasic person can't change immediately. If you're expecting that change immediately, it's foolish. But it's possible. With time and experience and support and just that little bit of encouragement, everybody can change. So that is what helps you to not hate. Here, hate has the connotation of a strong emotion, a strong judgment. There's no strong judgment. Doesn't mean you go and embrace the evil. Huh? Doesn't mean you make those who are evil your best friend. People think of it, take it to the other extreme. We're not asking you to hug a snake. You understand a snake is a snake and keep your distance from it. Such a person who sees the world with such objectivity, their wisdom is established. One more verse. We'll. I don't know if I have time to complete this verse.
How will you, if you're busy in your, if you are in your daily life, if you're in your business, if you're with your family, so where is the time to getting attached to the higher desires? You're so much engrossed in those lower desires only.
5 times a day. Just remember the higher the 5
Mechanical.
times.
So that is mechanical, sir.
15 minutes a day.
Sir, I'm doing from 30 years. That is mechanical.
15 minutes a day. Let's discuss. Let's talk about this. Let's engage in this thought. See, when you see, there's a saying: 1,000 horses cannot push you into this. 1,000 horses cannot drag you away from this. If you have a genuine desire for the higher, 1,000 horses cannot pull you away from it. Whatever you place in front, whatever obstruction you place, you will pass them all to ensure that you are. And 1,000 horses cannot drag you to the higher. Right? So, as I always say to you, that don't be too hard on yourself. Yes, you have lifted yourself to a great extent. To be even conscious of where you are is evolution, right? To be conscious of where you stand and your own limitations at this point is evolution. But a desire for the higher, again, as you rightly said, it's not mechanical, and it's also not a function of time. It's also not a function of the quantum of time. You will automatically make time for it. You don't, as we say, you don't need to do different things to evolve. You need to do the same things with a different mindset to evolve. You are caught up in your business and your family life. The idea of spirituality is not to take you away from your business and your family life. The idea is to infuse it in your business and your family life. Can you do your business with a little more objectivity? Can you lead your family life with a little more objectivity? Because that's the arena. In the previous class also, people were asking, is this yoga? Yes, this is yoga. This is your dharma kshetra. As a grihastha, this is your dharma kshetra. What else is it? Spirituality is not about doing anything else. We're not here to give you some other preoccupation other than for the bulk of people, it is family and business. Maybe if you are a VVIP, then it could be maybe some other administration. It could be your community. It could be your state. It could be your nation. That could be your preoccupation. Right? But for the bulk of us, it is family and business, or family and work. This is our dharma kshetra. So we're not asking you to do anything different, and we're not asking you to make time for this outside family and business. So your yoga is in these fields. It's not anything else.
Sir, in the last class, you had said this. This is striking me. The Sakshi Bhav will come from Samarpan Bhav, and the Samarpan Bhav will come from Ashcharya Bhav. To develop this Ashcharya Bhav, I think the crux is this.
So as I said in the previous class also, this Ashcharya Bhav is sitting on the tip of your nose. It's right here. The irony, and that's the irony, is that we don't see it. We've taken our life for granted. ये तो होना ही है.
So like what you said, मेरे प्लेट में खाना है, that is आश्चर्य भाव, right?
See,
Sorry, I interrupted. Sorry.
no. I'm just thinking of a beautiful example, memory of mine. But the first time I planted a seed, see, it's very commonplace. Millions and billions of seeds are planted. So we've become. What is the value of a vegetable? 20 rupees a kilo, 30 rupees a kilo. We've reduced it to just their material value, right? But what is the spiritual value of that? The fact that from a single seed, it grew into something that you can. It's a beautiful technology. It's pulled up nutrients from the soil and is giving it to you in a form that you can consume. I used to have, when we were in America, when I was living in America, I was living with 5-6 of my friends. So we used to do some gardening and everything, and we used to also have chickens. So I used to have 7 chickens in my backyard. All chickens, no, all hens, no. So I used to see them every 1.5 days, 1.25 days, a chicken will lay an egg. I used to wonder, what does this fellow eat that is giving me such eggs? Okay, because not all soil is very nourishing. Sometimes you would bring it very healthy soil where there are many small bugs and small worms and stuff like that. That used to be the treat day for the chicken. But on an ordinary day, what is a chicken eating? A chicken is eating literally dirt. You're feeding a lettuce to it. So I would say, what is a chicken? A chicken is the machine. You feed it a lettuce and it will give you an egg. Ascharya. Incredible. You're planting a seed, it's growing into a nourishing plant. Ascharya. You study any field of knowledge. You study any field of knowledge and take away the mundane motive from it. Take away the mundane motive from it. Study any sciences with a sense of inquiry. Ascharya bhav. So it's right in the tip of our nose. We just don't see it. You woke up this morning. It's a wonderment. One day the leaf of a plant will be so small, and it will be curled up because it's a new leaf. The next day it will open up. What is the power that is functioning in it? Ascharya bhav cannot be conveyed. I am failing miserably at trying to convey it. Ya pashyati sah pashyati. The point is, we've reduced everything to a mere transactional value. We've reduced this world into simply having a monetary value. We measure land by its per square feet rate. We measure land by its per square feet rate. That's all we see. So what we value, we see. Right? And we'll see the world in that. Now, as I said, आश्चर्य भाव या तो ज्ञान से आ सकता है या धक्के खा के आ सकता है. Life will force you to look at some things. If you don't learn by knowledge, then life will force you to see it in a certain way.
सब जी, जो पीपल का पेड़ होता है, कंक्रीट फाड़ के भी निकल जाता है. आप देखो छतों के ऊपर पीपल के पेड़ उगे हुए होते हैं. It's such a strong seed, I don't know. और वो कहते हैं कि कौवे की तरफ से जाता है. और पीपल इज सो गुड फॉर अस. पीपल का पेड़ जो है, इट गिव्स ऑक्सीजन इन द नाइट ऑल्सो, बट उसके सीड इतने स्ट्रांग होते हैं कि कंक्रीट को फाड़ देते हैं
Yeah.
एंड दे कम आउट. बहुत अच्छा बोले आप. जो अभी इनका जो सवाल है, एक ही उसका जवाब मेरे ख्याल में यही है कि प्रभु कृपा अगर हम दिल में रखें, यही हायर डिजायर है. जो कुछ भी हो रहा है प्रभु की कृपा से हो रहा है. हमको हायर डिजायर के वो शब्द नहीं ढूंढने पड़ेंगे, हमारे को सरेंडर करना पड़ेगा. आज जैसे आपने अद्भुत उस विषय की बात की है, हमारे शरीर में कितना कुछ हो रहा है, अद्भुत चीजें हो रही हैं, खून बन रहा है, खा रहे हैं, पी रहे हैं, लेकिन कहाँ से हो रहा है? सब अद्भुत ही तो हो रहा है.
Yeah.
आर वी नॉट सरप्राइज्ड? तो
I'm not
ये
surprised.
प्रभु की कृपा से हो रहा है सब. हम कहाँ से कर रहे हैं? हम नहीं बोलते दिल को कि भाई तुम इतनी दफा धड़को, हम लंग्स को नहीं बोल रहे कितनी दफा तुम सांस लो, अपने आप ही हो रहा है. ये प्रभु की कृपा नहीं है क्या? सब उसी की कृपा है.
So,
हम बीच में कहाँ से आ गए?
so आप में आश्चर्य भाव आएगा तो automatically you'll be aware of the splash of divinity around you, and through awareness of the splash of divinity around you, there'll be a sense of surrender. I'm not saying surrender to a particular god or a particular deity. Different people have different ways of expressing that sense of surrender. A scientist expresses a surrender through a surrender to nature. A devotee will express it through surrender to deity. A person of Jnana Yoga will surrender in a spirit of surrender to wisdom, to these verses, right?
क्यों सर जी, सेब तो पहले भी गिर रहे थे, लेकिन न्यूटन ने जब देखा सेब गिरा तो उसने क्या क्या सोच लिया. अब देखिए न्यूटन की जो थ्योरी है आज तक वैलिड है.
ओम जी, मैं बोल लूं? हाँ, आप बीच में बोलोगे ना तो मेरी थॉट
नहीं, सॉरी, मैं बहुत माफी चाहता हूँ.
So I really appreciate everything you say, but the moment you say it in the middle, my thought flow completely, vanishes. So I'll appreciate that if you want to say something, please raise your hand or bring it to my attention. I'll certainly give you a chance to say something. Okay. We'll conclude here. I don't have time to take up the next verse. We've already short over time. If there is any quick question, I'm happy to take it up. If not, thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you again on Thursday.
I had a question.
Hanji, Divya ji, yes.
Does grief lead you to surrender? Extreme sadness, does it cause you to surrender?
I think I mentioned this in the last class. I think it's Shri. I was supposed to get back to you with the exact quote. Now that I remember, I was telling that I promised the class I'll get back to them with the exact quote. But Shri Aurobindo said that our grief and our tragedies are a reminder that God exists, right? And the idea of that is that, of course, when we have griefs for whatever reason, it is life forcing us to think. So ultimately, surrender comes through awareness. Surrender comes through knowledge, not directly from grief. But what grief does generally is that grief happens because you're placed in an extreme situation or in an absurd situation or in a very difficult situation where life is forcing you to think. Life is forcing you to reevaluate, reassess the way in which you looked at life and meaning and what is important and what is not important. So absolutely, indirectly, difficult situations definitely, bring us down the road of spirituality. That is the entry point for a lot of people to start this inquiry, and through this inquiry comes a sense of surrender, right? So surrender directly happens from awareness of the higher, knowledge of the higher, inquiry of the higher. But grief is something that perhaps opens the doors for us to, start inquiry, start thinking. Yeah.
Thank you.
That said, and I always advocate this, that you have to give your emotions their due. What I mean by that is that the more extreme the emotion, whether it's grief or elation or any strong emotion, is not the time to bombard yourself with knowledge, right? Uh, Knowledge is taken in doses. Knowledge is taken in doses. That's the symbolism of Gangaji. Gangaji, we worship Gangaji because she is symbolic of knowledge. The river Ganges is symbolic of knowledge. And the idea is, the parable goes that humans pleaded the gods to, pleaded Ganges to descend upon the earth. But the force of the Ganges would have been so strong that it would have destroyed the earth. That's why Lord Shiva collected the Ganges in his jata. That's the story that goes. The idea is that knowledge is extremely strong. It can, if it is not taken in doses, if it is taken all at once, particularly when one is, say, in the 11th hour in a strong situation, then it can totally unsettle us also. It can totally bewilder us also, maybe not have the appropriate impact. So the idea of knowledge is to take it in small doses. And Lord Shiva is a person of detachment. So a person of detachment can receive knowledge in its full force, but then they give it out in small doses, in measured doses, to those who wish to learn and listen. The idea being that in a time of strong, intense emotion, don't expect yourself to understand everything and maybe adopt everything immediately, right? Knowledge is taken in small doses, and gradually, shanai, slowly, there is a transformation in the person, right? So this surrender is its own journey, right? It can't be forced upon anyone. It can't happen immediately. It can't happen overnight.
Hari Om, sir.
Thank you. Hari Om. We'll see you.
Hari Om, Hari Om. Thank you so much.
Hari Om.